I pledge allegiance
to the flag of
of the
the
United
United States of America,
and
to the republic
To the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it stands,
and
one nation,
one
and
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
for all.
justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. The first item under our agenda is the consent agenda. The listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. The agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by city council. The mayor will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Either the public or council member may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda at that time prior to council's vote. The first item is the approval of the work session and regular meeting minutes of May 26, 2020. Next is approval of expenditure vouchers of June 9th, 2020. Approval of the Renewal Hotel and Restaurant liquor license for Me Mexico Restaurant. It's incorporated, doing business as Me Mexico, located at 801 East Main Street, Cortez. Next is approval of Renewal Hotel and Restaurant liquor license for Rosita Incorporated, doing business as Tequilas, located at 1740 East Main in Cortez. Next is approval of a Renewal Hotel and Restaurant liquor license for Fiesta Mexicana Restaurant Number 3 Incorporated, doing business as Fiesta Mexicana Number 3, located at 430 North Highway 145, Cortez. And the final one is approval of a Renewal retail marijuana store license for Chronic Therapy Cortez LLC, located at 1020 South Broadway, Cortez.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda for today. Sorry, I haven't made a motion in a while. I apologize.
Second,
That works. Medina,
Yes.
Yazzie,
Yes.
Rainey,
yes.
Betts,
Aye.
Tuckins,
Yes,
Lucero,
Aye.
Levy.
Aye,
Thank you.
thank you. There are no presentations. At this time, we're calling for citizen participation. Comments may be limited to 4 minutes per person. Please comment on items not listed as public hearing. Council may or may not respond to comments. Are there any comments from attendees?
We have one.
Okay. Annie Cedar, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are now. Thank you, Annie.
Perfect. My name is Ann Cedar and I live at 24,000 Road L in Cortez. And I'm just curious, like in this current movement with Black Lives Matter coming to the forefront and all of these changes in schools and towns and police districts across the country, if there's anything that any council members, any conversations or ideas that are coming up for you all that you think could be productive conversations to have in Cortez.
I think it'd probably be, maybe we'd get the chief of police, acting chief to address the city in a council meeting sometime to put people's fears to rest. I think that would be a start. Maybe we could contact the police department.
Annie, I know for me personally, like I would like to have more trainings around diversity, inclusion, and implicit bias in our community. And I'm hoping to work with community members to try and bring those here. And I think it would be really great for all of us council members to attend that if possible, and really set that leadership in our community. I think it's something that maybe all public officials should have and go through as part of their onboarding, but in the works for me personally, trying to bring that here, and hopefully my fellow council members would be willing to attend something like that.
Thank you, Arlena.
Arlena, thank you for bringing that up. I would like to attend any and all of those trainings and meetings.
Yep, sign me up too.
Mayor, question, would you like this on the next work session or the council's agenda
Uh,
to have the Lieutenant Brock come and talk?
Probably the next work session, possibly.
Okay. I'll arrange it.
Okay, thank you.
Annie, did you have any other comment?
Thanks for asking. I don't at this time. You know, it's been something I've been thinking about and hearing lots of conversations in Cortez. So I was just interested in kind of hearing where members of council were at right now. Yeah.
Yes, it's on a lot of our minds lately. Thank you, Annie.
And I don't think it's something that should leave our minds at all. Like, I think it's something that's ongoing and we need to take into consideration even past, you know, past these protests and everything that's going on right now. Like, we need to just make it an innate part to us being public officials or community.
Mr. Mayor, would that be something, so if Arlena is able to set up these educational scenarios or anything that she finds out, would that be, if we were to set up the right route, we could have more than 3 council members in attendance?
Have to publish notice that more than 3 might be in attendance and it's done.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Annie, for your comments. Are there any more comments from the council? We always appreciate your input from the community, and thank you, Annie. Appreciate it. I don't see any more hands up for discussion. Next item is there are no public hearings. There's no unfinished business. Next item is new business. And the first item is Wild Edge Brewing Collective Temporary Outdoor Dining Agreement due to COVID-19. And Mike Green will address.
What happened is the Wild Edge went to the state.
Sorry to interject, Mr. Green. I will be recusing myself because of a possible conflict of interest for these votes.
Thank you, I forgot. So what we have is Wild Edge went to the state and the state gave them a temporary outdoor liquor servicing premise all the way to the curb, essentially from the front of the building for the full width of the building. That was subject to ADA requirements. It was subject to other restraints or whatever that the city might have. Liquor licenses are a 2-step process. They have to be approved back because of the federal constitution. Prohibition and the taking prohibition off. Local governments have a lot of control. So what Wild Edge did was brought that into the city staff. City staff and I looked at it, and we got to go back to just like we did before. They need to have control of the sidewalk in front of the building. In other words, a lease, what I call a license, which is what this outdoor dining agreement is. And what we have is we're going to agree to let them use out to the curb on a temporary basis, less than accept right down through the middle, a 3-foot wide pathway that will remain a city sidewalk. It's not good form to let people walk through a bar serving area with their dogs, kids, bikes, whatever. It creates issues. And so staff is recommending that the mayor be authorized to sign the temporary outdoor dining agreement. I want to say these run out in October, but I could be wrong. Like everything else, they're sort of ephemeral. They happen. And so we have no problem with this, and neither does Wild Edge with that condition. So if staff would please approve this, or staff recommends approval by council.
Are there any questions, council?
Yeah.
Mike, I'm trying to envision this again, and maybe Tucker, you can pop in and describe it. But so like it's going all the way out to the curb, and then
Yes.
there's like a gap in the stanchions, or is it just leaving? I'm trying to envision how this looks.
It'll be 2 parcels, if you will, with a pathway through the middle of it. So there'll be like a serving area next to the building. You'll come out, I would say 6 or 8 feet. There'll be 3 foot that'll be sidewalk that the city will be in control of. And then you'll have a separate serving area. The new liquor license regulations allow them to cross that sidewalk without it being licensed, servers only. Not the public carrying their beer into the bathroom or whatever. And so that's what we need to have happen. We have to control part of the sidewalk.
Okay.
And
Okay, that's what I was envisioning when I was reading over the document.
That was the safest part, was in the middle instead of on either end.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that makes sense.
And Tucker does have his hand raised so that he could explain that, Arlena, a little more. So,
Yeah, Bill, would you mind?
there we go.
Okay,
Hello,
Tucker.
Tucker.
Go ahead, Tucker.
Tucker, you're on. Maybe audio is not working.
Can you guys hear me now?
Okay,
Yes.
no. Okay, go
Sorry.
ahead. Tucker.
Yes, Arlena, to address your question, we are planning on having at least a 36-inch wide gap in the stanchions on both the north and the southern end of what is our expanded liquor license that runs right through the middle. There will be no tables there. There will be nothing obstructing pedestrian traffic through there. Staff will be closely monitoring, making sure that customers are not hanging out there or anything. I mean, we have pretty strict protocols right now, insisting that if people aren't getting up to order or getting up to use the restroom, that they stay in their seats by their table, so that pedestrian right of way, which will actually probably be able to be larger than 3 feet in width, remains clear for pedestrian travel.
Cool. And that's adding how many more tables to your outdoor seating?
We will be able to add 3 more tables to our outdoor seating, taking our seating capacity from 6 up to about 16. And with this expansion, we're also able to get all of those tables and the people seated around those tables to have a greater than 6-foot distance between them. The 6-foot rule is what the state is saying right now for restaurants. And we're going to be exceeding that 6-foot limit with this expansion. So in essence, it'll allow us to actually keep our customers further apart and thus safer.
Awesome. I respect your creativity and honoring that social distancing. Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Tucker, I have a question. This is
Yep.
Mayor Mike. The one section of your sidewalk is sloped slightly. How are you going to compensate for that slope?
So we have it set up. I've actually been able to augment the tables that'll be on that slope to raise the downslope feet of those tables by 2 inches, bringing them up level. And then we're also planning on having those tables pretty much be on that eastern edge, abutting the eastern edge of our new premise perimeter. So nobody will be sitting with their back facing downhill. Everybody will be able to sit either facing downhill or slightly obscure or tangential to the downhill slope. That just makes it safer for sitting so that nobody accidentally leans back and falls over going backwards. And that is something that we're planning on informing all of our customers. We will have the table set up so that it's impossible to have your back towards the road, which will keep our customers safer, we believe.
Thank you, Tucker.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, council?
No, he answered my question. This is Orly. I was going to ask Mr. Green, what was the difference of the last ordinance we approved with him on his liquor license, but he answered the extra, the 3-foot separation, then the other part. So that's the only question I had, but appreciate it.
Well, the second part of this we will be extending the licensed premise out once we give him the license to use the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
So this agenda will be a 2-part voting. Do I hear a motion for the first part?
Make a motion approving a temporary outdoor dining agreement between the city of Cortez and Wild Edge Brewing Collective LLC and give the mayor the authorization to sign the agreement.
Second.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the second part is the Wild Edge Brewing Collective temporary modification of premises due to COVID-19.
This is the part that authorizes them to serve alcohol out on the new premise. They would not be able to serve it in the 3-foot middle strip, but people, or rather servers, would be able to go across that strip to get to the premise next to the curb. But the public would be confined to that area. Staff would have to move their booze into the other area or inside if they wanted to. They couldn't cross on their own. And so this is, now that we've given them control of the sidewalk, they're eligible to get a liquor license for that new part. This also is temporary, and it coincides with the state permit, which I don't know if you got a copy of in your stuff, but it's very particular to the COVID situation. Staff again recommends approval.
Okay, do we have a motion for this?
I move that the licensed premises of Wild Edge Brewing Collective LLC shall be temporarily expanded to include the additional area, excluding an ADA compliant passageway across the front of the building, approximately 3 feet to 4 feet by 32 inches.
32
Second.
feet.
Oops,
32 feet.
32 feet, sorry.
That's a squeeze.
Lucero,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Levy.
Aye,
Thank you very much, folks.
thank you.
I'm
Next item-
curious, can I make a comment real quick?
Yes.
If that's okay. I'm curious to know how many other like restaurant businesses in our city know about like this loosening of regulation on city sidewalks. If we could make like a notice or share some information so that businesses that don't have that or like don't have outdoor seating can maybe utilize that. I'm trying to think of like which restaurants on Main Street or any side businesses, but
Arlena, we've received 2 other questions from businesses on them. All liquor licensees receive this legislation that was approved by the state. They all received it from the state of Colorado. We could do some kind of notice, but they all received that as part of their license information. So we do have 2 other inquiries, but they're both checking out if it will work for them to
Right.
meet the ADA requirements.
okay.
But you know, most of our businesses have some kind of outdoor area
Great.
attached to them. There are some that don't. So any of them that come in, we're talking to them. But they all received notice from the state, just like
Great.
Tucker. Tucker received his notice first from the state before we even had seen it.
Okay.
So Tucker
Right.
did turn in his license at the same time to us as he did to the state. It's just the state reacted within 48 hours, which is doesn't usually happen.
Ain't seen that in 30 years.
No,
Amazing.
it was great that they reacted so quickly.
That's a good
But,
question.
well, that's good to know, and hopefully, maybe those businesses will be able to take advantage of that loosening of regulations.
And we need to do everything that we can to help our businesses.
We do.
Orly, you were gonna say something. I apologize. I spoke over.
No, no, you don't have to apologize. I was just saying that was a good question that you had there. I was thinking the same thing. That was a good one for other businesses. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any more discussion on this item? Okay, the next item is the CARE Act opt-in letter. John Doherty.
As we discussed in the work session, the county, as part of the federal grant, has received $2.25 million as part of the CARE Act to help local governments recover from the COVID-19. Of that money, the managers authorized the county to go ahead and take out of that money $36,510 that the county put in for the BD Max analyzer. So that leaves $2.21 million to be divvied up amongst the county and the municipalities. The managers met and we decided that the best way to divide it up would be by population. So Cortez portion of this would be $735,814 and some change. DOLA has requested that the mayor sign the opt-in for the city, and at the next council meeting, we will have a memorandum of understanding or a some kind of an agreement with the 3 municipalities in the county on how this money can be divided up. But DOLA wanted this letter, and I apologize. They weren't clear on what date they wanted it by, so we thought there was a rush. There isn't, but since it was already on the agenda, I just decided to go ahead and ask council's approval to have the mayor, as part of your motion, have the mayor sign in as a opt-in for the city of Cortez.
Thank you, John. Are there any comments, council? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to consider authorizing the mayor to sign an opt-in letter to the Department of Local Affairs regarding the COBA virus relief funding.
Second.
Rainey,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Medina,
Aye.
Huckins,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Betts,
Aye.
Levy.
Aye. Okay. There are no draft resolution ordinances. There are no other items of business. Are there any more additional citizen participation? I'm checking the attendees and I don't see any hands up. There's no city attorney's report tonight. There's no city manager report. Any city council committee reports? Have any of
I've
you
got
been to
one.
committees? Sue?
I went to the historical preservation meeting on Zoom. And it was discussed the properties that had been checked on First Street. And we actually had 22 properties on First Street that had applied. 18 of them were eligible. 6 properties actually, if I've got this right, and I think I do, actually qualified for national registry. 2 of those properties were the post office and the old phone company, which is at what, First and Chestnut, I believe. Anyway, since they're federal and stuff, they may not want to do anything about it, but we thought that was kind of interesting that we had some that actually qualified federally. The post office apparently has had nothing really done to it since it was built. So that was pretty much the consensus there of what they've done. They've been looking at a lot of property.
Sue, I got a question about that because my house is historical and it's on First Street. Do you have to apply to have your house evaluated for that, or? Because I know that mine didn't, my house was like 1 street past the cutoff block for their grant for 2019.
I'm not really sure, Rachel. I can set you up with who you need to talk to.
Okay.
There was also, and that's something I did fail to say, there was 3 houses on Elm Street that had been moved in. And those 3 houses actually had been moved from McPhee Reservoir before McPhee was put in. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh.
But I'll be happy to get you the information you need, Rachel.
Thank you.
Are there any other committees or meetings council members have attended last 2 weeks?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Medina and myself attended with the rest of the board, of course, the Mesa Verde Country Board meeting. So it was a great intro for us new members. Kelly Kirkpatrick kind of just went over what they're focusing on Cortez as having experiences, and broken down into 4 different concepts, such as outdoor, cultural and heritage, food and beverages, and activities and events. So they've kind of sectored off these different experiences to kind of throw out into the world, basically, to try to drum up some tourism. Another point that kind of stuck in my head, she brought up that Cortez actually has one of the lowest lodgers taxes in the state, and it's currently resting at 2%, with the county at a 1.9%. So kind of looking at that as eventually maybe going for a vote. And I might pass it off to Rachel to see if she captured any other points of interest from that meeting.
Yeah, just learning a lot about what they do and working with the hotels, and their concern for budget, for funding, obviously, in the future. But it was a great professional meeting.
Oh, and just an update, the Cortez Welcome Center is open. It's open 5 days a week. The hours are 8:30 to 5:30. An update via email has said they've seen about 15 people a day, mostly persons wanting to use the restroom. Volunteers have been wearing masks. They're provided sanitizer, and they've cleaned the area after each visitor. So it sounds like they're on top of cleanliness over there, which is great.
I might add, I stopped by the rec center today, and they don't have the fingerprint scanner anymore because of the COVID-19, but you can scan your card. There's a reader out there, and so I asked the attendant how you do this, and so she took my name and information, and while I waited, she printed out a card with a barcode on it with my name and everything on it. So it's a laminated card that'll stand up, to recreation. So next time I go to the rec center and get ready to recreate, I just have to scan this card. So it'll make it a lot easier. So the first time you go there, they'll fix up a card for you and with your name and number on it, basically. They have it well organized there. So I'm urging all of you to attend that recreation center. They need some business.
I'd like to note, like, my spouse too is also very excited that the rec center is open, and he said that they're also doing a really good job. He forgot his mask when he came in, but they gave him one of the Cortez bandanas, and he brought that home. So there was no Parks and Rec or golf meeting last month. Both of those are happening this month. But I did also notice that I believe they had just moved to tier 2 for the tennis courts. I believe I saw that. Okay, I got some nods. I'm pretty sure I saw that on Facebook. So I thought I would mention that as well.
Okay.
Is something wrong with the indoor pool? I heard that there was a leak in it.
There's a leak in it. And we called the people who did the outdoor pool, and I'm not sure if they have found the problem. We went to the sand district and asked to borrow their camera, but it wouldn't work because we have too many elbows in it. So we were gonna go to the company that worked on the outdoor pool, and we know there's a leak. We just don't know if it's gonna cause bigger problems if we fill the pool up.
Did we know there was sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, did we know if was there a leak before though, or we just notice it now?
Good question. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it may be showing up because we started to fill the pool and all of a sudden we have a wet spot over where there shouldn't be wet.
John, I met with Joy and Dan this morning to look at doing some testing internally with our staff. Rich Landreth is going to work with them to isolate the drain line and determine if it's the pipe or if we have a link seal in the stem wall leaking through. So we're trying to handle that internally as quickly as possible.
I had a quick question on the, ever since you brought up the rec center, on the passes, the people that bought the yearly passes and everything, do they, is there's going to be some kind of extension or anything on it? Because when the part of the rec center is only open and some of the people buy the passes for different things in there, is there going to be any refund or extension or anything
Yes.
on their dues?
Yes. There will be an extension, or if they want their money back, we've also been doing that.
That's no problem. That's good to hear. I was just curious on that because a lot of people that go in there don't lift weights or
Yep.
do those exercise machines. Usually they go that other, I can't remember the word of that pool there. So I'm just curious. Appreciate it.
I have a question about COVID. What are we doing for people who can't afford their utility bills, their city utility bills during this time?
Right now, we are not charging for any late pay penalties. And we are also, if they call us and let us know that they can't make their payments because they're unemployed and things, we're deferring payments until they can get set up on a payment plan.
Can I
Okay.
make a comment too? If someone, if you're watching and if you're struggling with your utility bills, there are programs in town that can help out. The Pinion Project has a lot of funding I believe they still have funding to help out with things like utility bills. So I would recommend reaching out to them because that's specifically like what that funding's for.
Could we use the CARE money for stuff like that as well? Like set aside some funds for that?
We'll certainly look into it.
Okay.
There any more committee reports or meeting reports, council?
Mayor, if I may, I do need to notify the council of one thing. On Thursday morning, I have a meeting with the KREA board. Mark Drudge is going to be retiring, and we've been talking for a while, and my comments have been, we have 3 different entities marketing for the city of Cortez. And in my view, that is a lot of duplication. Mesa Verde Country advertises internationally. Both KREA and John Brooks market for the city of Cortez and locally. Mark is retiring, and I would like to talk to the KREA board about, doing something to combine both John Brooks and the current KREA into just one entity, and using the savings from that to put in the projects we've been doing all along. I just wanted to inform council, Mark and I have been talking for a while, but he didn't want it known because he hadn't informed his board that he is retiring. And I believe it's in July he's planning on retiring, but he said he'd stick around through this year to help anybody out or do whatever their board needs. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to be talking with the KREA board, and hopefully we can come up with something that everybody can live with to combine the 2 entities and move forward as just one.
I've always been curious about the difference between the Cortez Chamber, Mesa Verde Country, and KREA, because some things seem to overlap, and so do they compete for funding? Are they duplicating efforts, or is there a very specific part of economics that they fill? I don't know.
Mesa Verde Country does fill a specific area. KREA, when it was created, was part of the chamber, and it got so convoluted I couldn't track how they were formed after. Our agreement was with the Chamber of Commerce, and then off went KREA on their own, and not part of the chamber, but we never got a contract. So that was when I started digging in as to what they do and why they're doing it. Yes, you're right. They're originally part of the chamber. They were supposed to be working with the chamber and marketing the city and businesses. I'm not sure why they broke off, but they did. And so we're now at this point of we either need a contract with KREA or combine the 2, and depending on the structure of it, whether it's a city, it goes under John Brooks and it's part of the city, or it stays in KREA, we'll get a contract with them to do that.
And so John, you're talking about combining those two and keeping Mesa Verde Country separate, right? Because that's
Yes.
partially funded through the lodgers tax, but Korea and the other one are not, they don't get money from lodgers, right?
Korea gets money from sales tax or lodger's tax. I believe it's lodger's tax. They do get lodger's tax.
Okay.
So are they the reason that Cortez Chamber doesn't get lodger's tax, or? Sorry, Arlena.
It's okay.
I believe it is because they all broke off. They were getting it when they had Korea, but then they broke off. And so I guess it was, they gave up that revenue source.
Yeah, I think anywhere we can streamline our efforts and not be duplicating things is better. So, yeah.
All right, so John, are you going to spearhead that combination of joining those forces then?
I'm going to discuss with the Korea board on Thursday morning to get their feelings about, do they really want to hang on to this under any cost, or can we begin these discussions? And really, I think, as Arlena said, we need to save money, combine money, and use it more wisely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor of seeing that the combining it myself on there, because like everybody's saying, there's a lot of duplicate that goes on. And also the question came up about the funding. I think when we're competing for each other for funding, I think there'd be more leadership, getting more funding with the places combined, I'm thinking.
Hey, any more meetings? Council?
Mike, before you move on, I just want to make sure for the record, we received a letter from Lana Waters noting some information that she wanted to include in the packet tonight. I did let her know that would be included. I don't know if she sent it to each of the council members. I did not see that it was, but I think you said that you had received it.
I did receive it.
So did all the other 6 receive this letter from Lana Waters regarding her concerns?
I have.
Yes.
So all seven of you have received this letter.
Amongst other letters as well from other concerned citizens this week.
Okay. This was the only one that was asked to be entered in the record tonight. So I just want to make sure I'm attaching it to the record, and I just want to make sure that all of you had received it so that I didn't need to send it to each of you. So it does sound like you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
See, I did, on May 28th, I attended the Tri-Chamber of Commerce Empower Breakfast that Rocky was referring to earlier. And Katie McClure was the keynote speaker, and she discussed uncommon health solutions, which is very informative. And I'd encourage any of you to attend those Empower breakfasts. It's a good way to learn what's going on with the business community and what's going on with them. On May 30th, I was invited to the Montezuma Pride fundraiser. It was a virtual party, and they were doing the fundraiser for the Four Corners Mutual Aid Network. And that was kind of a fun thing to be invited to. Andy Cedar was part of that. On Wednesday, June 3rd, I was invited and attended a Zoom meeting for the Youth Family Leadership Training Institute. That's part of the SCYC, the School Community Youth Collaborative. And they basically had a graduation for some of their youth members who are graduating from high school. And they, 3 of the youth members gave discussions on their projects, and some of them were they discussed the successes they had with Sebastian discussed his work with the SWOS crosswalk And Ansel was key in helping with the Dolores Playground program. And Rachel had a program where she talked to middle school students about storytelling and writing. And I just want to say I'm so impressed with these young people. It's amazing how tuned in they are with what's going on, and they see things with a definitely a different perspective, than other people, older people maybe. And it's really good to be around younger people like that. We have a lot to learn. That's all I have to say about that. Any other meetings, Counselor? Let's see, I'll go over the workshop. Here it is. We had a Cortez Chamber of Commerce update by Rocky Moss. We had an update on the CARE Act, possible funding by John Doherty. We discussed the airport consultant advisory committee, and we selected 3 members on the council. We had discussion of 4th of July fireworks, and sounds like it's not going to happen in Cortez this year. And Mike Green gave some information on holding quasi judicial hearings. And we also, once again, set a date for July 23rd, June 23rd, 2020 for the farewell party. And thank you for council members Karen Sheik, Ty Keel, Gary Noyes, and Jill Carlson. And basically that is covered the minutes of the workshop. Are there any more comments?
Did anyone go to the farmer's market this last weekend?
I planned to, but it was so windy and cold, I decided against it. But it did happen.
I didn't.
Okay. Can I hear a motion to have this meeting adjourned?
So move.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Good evening, folks.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night.
Thank you.
Good
Again.
night.
You'll have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.